No one gonna do anything. You know why? All your teammates is a bunch of.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Manel Collins.
Bro.
Yeah, so top of UFC 305, Li Jinglang. Don't judge my Mandarin.
Li Jing
Yeah,
Jinglang.
we've seen her.
Carlos
Yeah, didn't we just watch
Bartes,
this fight?
Whatever. You said, did we just watch this? So
Oh,
the fight.
I was making a terrible joke about Wiley fighting that other Chinese girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we watch Daniel. Wait, what the hell? Why did it say he fought Daniel Rodriguez in 2022?
It was only 2 fights ago.
We watched that fight and we're like, oh, this is a robbery. Jinglang won, bro. And I think there was another fight we watched with Lee, and we're like, wait, this is a robbery. But whatever.
The only time we saw him get owned was Hamzat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually the first Hamzat fight that I watched live.
And Hamzat carried him like a baby.
Yeah, and it was just like, dude,
Yeah, he did.
He just put him to bed.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he gave him a warm glass of milk and tucked him in.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it was bad. Jesus. That's the thing when you got these guys that are like, they're just a tiny bit better than you, but in real life it plays out. The margin is so wide. Because imagine you've been training all your life, but then like the margin between you and this guy is just so much wider.
Bro, but that gets so lost. This is one of like in all sports, but we're MMA focused here. That really gets lost in MMA, especially for the casual viewer, like the person who hasn't trained and just isn't that into it. They just like seeing people knock each other out. Like when they see someone like, just to grab a recent example, we were being harsh on Leon because I think we all agreed that fight was on the table for him to fucking win. And when someone watched that fight, they were like, "Oh, dude, he sucks. Like he got owned. Like he couldn't do shit." And the crazy thing is, like he's losing those exchanges at the margins, and that was the difference, right? Like a little more urgency or a little more hand fighting when Bilal like took his shots against the cage. That's all the difference between like Bilal taking Leon down and Leon countering the position and circling out from the fence. But people don't appreciate that. They just see the outcome and be like, "Oh, he got owned. He got taken down again." They don't appreciate like.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Put it this way, like, bro, if you took anyone who's even not even like champion, but let's just say like a top 10 UFC fighter, you put them against pretty much, pick of the litter random amateur fighter, but like someone who's presumably been training for years and at least has some amount of actual sanctioned fights, they will blow the doors off of that said amateur fighter, and it won't be close, it won't be pretty. Like they'll probably just take the trash out inside 2 minutes if they want to. And that's what people don't understand. Like when they see like, oh, Leon got owned for 25 minutes. It's like, bro, the fact that like 2 fighters, like it goes to a decision after 25 minutes, that in itself is testament to how close the margins are.
And you also see it in stuff like, well, I guess where you really see it, where you can really like suss it out without people really telling you, is like basketball, where you're like 2 teams play and then the game ends like 98 110. And you're like, wait a second, these guys should be so much better, but nah, they still got scored on 90 times.
Yeah, like in NBA terms, you'd be like, oh wow, like the Lakers got fucking beat up, dude. They lost by 15 tonight. It's like,
yeah,
I don't think you realize, brother, like if you put them against Like any collection of players outside of the NBA, they lose by 70, not
Yeah.
15, not 30. They get drubbed so badly it's over at halftime. Bad. And that's where like it's like it's like the observer effect, or like somewhat like the man in the arena effect. Like it's just so it'll forever like make me laugh a little bit, or even pain me to a degree when I hear like, my friends with their Miller Lights in hand who haven't done an athletic thing in a fucking decade are like, "Oh, dude, what's he doing? Just get up!" Like,
I need a Miller Lite.
I meant to say Miller Lite if it sounded like a middle light, but
Oh, I
anyway.
meant to say Miller Lite. I said Miller Lite.
Oh,
Yeah, bro.
you
Listen,
incepted me. You incepted me with middle light.
I said before, I never claim to speak English. So
Yeah.
You literally
it
you
is what
literally
it is.
incepted me with middle light.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this podcast really isn't done right unless we've had at least 10 beers.
That is true. I need some beer.
To me, our first sponsor is Middle Light.
Okay, Li
Not-
Jinliang. He's fighting this Carlos Prates guy. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't know anything about this Carlos guy. I think he had like 2 fights.
Full
in UFC.
disclosure. We went on UFC
UFC.
Fight Pass, and none of his fights are.
He doesn't deserve to be known.
Simple
He
as
doesn't
that.
deserve to be known.
He
Period.
has won his last 5 fights, though.
So they got Li Jing. 5 fights. I see 2 UFC fights only.
That's part of the problem. He has 2 UFC fights. He won by KO. His fight before that was Dana White Contender Series, and then whatever the fuck LFA is. I think he's basically a prospect, is what it boils down to. Like, I don't
Seems
know
like
either.
Jing Lang is low gatekeeping. Boy, what they got him doing that job for? That's like he's like at the front gate of the UFC. Like he's like the ticket guy. Bro, why do they have him down so low, bro? What is happening?
He's the ticket guy. Yeah.
He's checking your ticket.
Yeah, he's custodial staff.
Bro,
Yeah,
he's not even at the gate.
He's putting the
like
limes
out
and the
front.
Coronas at the stand afterwards.
Yeah, bro. Bro, he's at the tailgate and he's like, bro, what is this, bro? Why is he fighting a guy with 2 fights?
Beats me. I have no idea what to make of that.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean,
Lin Yang is a decent fighter, bro. I think he's a gatekeeper, but he should be like higher up in the team. I don't think you should have your gatekeepers this low though. I don't know what's happening. But like he's literally like the gate man for he's like the front door security. Like he's checking people. Like, can you even get into the fucking arena? You're not kidding. What the hell?
I do. This is one of those like it's only when you put a guy like him in this position, it's only for him to lose. Like if he wins this fight, it's not like it bumps him up in the rankings or
It doesn't do anything at all.
yeah. So he only stands to lose because it's like, well, you're the veteran. You've kind of fought the who's who somewhat in your weight class.
If you lose this,
bro, this is like you lose this fight, we're leaving you on the tarmac, bud. Good luck in PFL or wherever the fuck signs you off the street.
bro. No, bro. If Li Jing gets knocked out, bro, he's literally on the street because that's where he's at outside.
Yeah.
Checking people's tickets, slump on the sidewalk, and they just leave him there. Bro, what the hell? What? I don't understand this. Well, hey,
I know this Carlos dude's 30, but I think from like the UFC's perspective, I think he's a prospect.
yeah,
Because he's 2 fights removed from Dana
he's
White
19 and
Contender
6
Series.
though.
Yeah, I mean, he must be one of those weird fighters.
What is the
who
FFL? What is that organization? What is this?
made up, bro? It's fake news.
Bro made up his own company. He called himself the Nightmare. He fights in LFA. And then he fought in SFT before that. And then he fought in one. Oh, he fought in one. Okay.
For a hot
Was he a
second.
kickboxer? Guess so. Maybe.
I mean, dude, to his credit, look at how many KOs he has in a row. Like, they might be cans, but look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 KOs in a row.
I have no idea and I don't care. So you guys go out support the Leech, bro. The Leech is a cool guy. You feel me?
We're
yeah,
Leech apologists. We're Leech apologists on this podcast.
We apologize. Yep. I think the Leech should have the interim belt, just cause. All right, you guys want to talk about Tai Tuivasa Rosenstruck?
All right, we're speed running this one. Just saying. This is just the most stereotypical heavyweight fight, especially
It's the most heavyweight fight imaginable, bro.
Yeah, two big sloppy brawlers who if they just clip you with pretty much anything can knock out the other person.
It's because they're both Samoan, like structurally. You know what I'm saying?
To be clear for the audience, only Tuivasa is actually Samoan, but
you know what I'm saying? It's that build.
yeah, they're like both like built. They're both
fair,
built like a refrigerator.
Yeah, like
6'2"
Mark Hunt
and wide.
was actually a very tricky. Had a great tool bag of tricks, but a lot of the other guys, they're such a body, and these guys are just bodies, bro. And Tuivasa is pretty young. For heavyweight, only 31. So, he can still put some skills on there. And not that he's not skilled at all, but, he could develop a fair bit more. Rosenstruck's mostly a finished product. We kind of know what to expect from him. But Tuivasa is a little heavier. Like, I'm looking at that here. So, but I think at heavyweight at this size, at 6'2", that's probably just a indication that he's a little fatter. And that might yeah, so it's one of those things where I think they probably both hit about equally hard. Maybe Tuivasa can't necessarily keep up the pace as much, maybe. But I think both these guys are pretty hittable. So
yeah, they're both very hittable. They're both very hittable, and they both have delete power, which is honestly you can copy and paste that as the profile for like 80% of fucking heavyweight division.
Bro.
Dude, side note, Tuivasa was like red hot up until 2022, 4-fight losing streak.
Bro, when he
finished 4 times in a row, mind you.
Ugh, bro. Yeah. Volkov got him. Pavlovich got him. Cyril. When Cyril had him that first time, Cyril put a clinic on him. Oh my god, he couldn't do anything. Oh, and he hit Cyril one time, almost knocked him out.
Yeah, he almost kills Cyril to start the fight.
The only time he touches Cyril, bro, drops him. But when Cyril got up though.
Yeah, and then he settled in and then just put on literally a kickboxing clinic on him.
Yeah, that was like teaching you. It was like a striking class. Just
that's the first time that's the first time you get to spar your instructor.
yeah, it's fucking.
He's just hitting you with shit you've never even seen before. And what the fuck?
You get one good hit on him, you're like, fuck yeah, and you carry that all the way. Take that home with you. Yeah, Pavlovich got him, but that's understandable. That's just a swing. That's just a sock 'em, rock 'em, whatever. And bro, the worst man lost that, bro. Volkov, round 2 sub. Jesus. And now he got bro. When I think about Rosenstruck, you know what I remember?
Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou bum rushing him every time.
Dude,
Bro,
I have
that
a
was a
distinct memory
UFC
of that fight
moment.
because Rosenstrike does he actually does the right stuff, and it just doesn't matter.
It's just
Like
that
he
division, bro.
he has the theoretically correct defensive reactions, and it just didn't matter because that was when Ngannou literally just sprinted at you like a rabid bull, and then was just like, whatever, I just need to land one of these fucking missiles and you're dead. So fuck it.
And Ngannou was like, first he started, and then he's like, oh, I think MMA is fake. And then fucking rushed. This MMA shit is bullshit.
Number one bullshit.
This is number one bullshit, brother. Bro, just fucking see the guy just bum rush him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, anyway, this is a very unappealing matchup for me.
You got something, Hybrid?
No, that's my. I have nothing constructive to add.
Yeah, one of these fucking big goons is gonna get KO'd probably inside 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think somebody's gonna get KO'd in this fight for sure. Would be crazy if it ends up being a submission. Tied to Ivasa heel hook.
Here's the thing with
Bro,
heavyweight.
I'd shit my pants if that happened.
You can't survive much at heavyweight unless you have good defense. So a lot of these guys get by on being a headbanger, but they don't develop decent defense. And so it always becomes a toss up for them when they're dealing with the other people that can bang like they can. The guys at heavyweight that are skilled are always heavyweights that actually have some defensive capability. Aspinall has defensive capability. Jones has defensive capability. Gon has defensive capability. Like the other guys are very liable to get KO'd.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think
Even as
somebody's gonna die
offensively
here.
potent and unstoppable as Pavlovich looked, look what happened.
Yeah, it just didn't happen.
You need defense at heavyweight because the offensive potency is so ridiculous up there. So the guys that really set themselves apart, they're not the guys who are like, I'm the hardest hitting heavyweight. It's like, dude, it's the most. It's honestly defense is what'll set you apart.
Yeah, I agree.
And these guys don't have it really. So yeah, a KO.
It's the lowest skill cap division. So yeah, this one's gonna be I think a pick'em KO for us. Like whatever, whoever you want to go with, go. Either way, it makes sense, bro. Either way.
The only thing that would be shocking about that fight is if it goes to distance.
Watch it go to distance. That'll be hilarious. All right, Camrot, Dan Hooker. How you guys feeling?
I think this is the first fight I'm actually interested in on this card. So we were doing some pre-pod breakdown here. One of the bigger themes for us is just kind of what the mystery of why Dan Hooker never actualized his hype.
Does Dan Hooker suck? Hybrid, you want to go first?
Is Dan Hooker a pretender?
Dan Hooker, I think, and we discussed this, but I'm reiterating, Dan Hooker, I think, spent his career being an awesome sparring partner for other high-level fighters, and I think partly left it in the gym. And I know you guys had some additional thoughts that I also thought were relevant, but I think the glaring elephant in the room for me is that he gets such praise from guys like Adesanya and Volkanovski, and I don't think they're bullshitting. But I think when it comes to performing in the cage, he probably lessened his own career because I think he was going real hard sparring with these guys all the time, and many more. I'm sure it wasn't just them. I bet he got a lot of people prepared and was a gym. He was a gym hero. But in his own career and fights, he had a decent run a little while ago, but he's just not that guy up there right now.
Yeah, I also had a theory that I came up with today that I told you guys earlier. Is maybe city kickboxing is not the best place for him.
Mm.
It doesn't fit his style. I think he's one of those guys over there very good grappling. He doesn't mix it in as much. I think he would succeed a lot with Khabib's folks, honestly.
Dude, that's a fun tangent. Is like, how many fighters theoretically have so much like low hanging fruit of skill to gain if they like spent 6 months with the Dagestani boys? Like, that's actually a bit that I think I don't remember. This is such an old opinion of mine. I don't even remember if this is something that we ripped on like Spaces pre-pod. But I've always felt like the most obvious case of that in somewhat recent history is Darren Till. Like, bro, if Darren Till like didn't prep for a fight and just straight up just grinded with the Sambo guys in Dagestan for like 6 months or even better, like a year, and then came kind of like the inverse of like Khalil Roundtree spent like a year in Thailand and he came back like and he's just this completely reinvented striker and just looks like a whole different fighter, way scarier, way more competent. Yeah, Darren Till's like the inverse in a sense, where like if that man spent months just grinding with the Dagestani guys, he might have been champion. And Dan Hooker, I think, is also in that
You
profile.
know, there's this thing in life where like let's say lifting weights, right? Until you lift it with like a professional bodybuilder or a professional power lifter, you don't really know how to lift. Like like you can do your workouts or whatever, but you don't even understand the intensity or stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And then once you do lift with them, just once you're like, all you have to do is lift with them for like once, and you're like, oh, okay, I got it. Oh, I get it now. And then that's all you needed. I think it's something like that with Hooker, to where if he went to another gym and saw how they incorporated their grappling with the striking a lot more, I think it would just snap at him like, oh, okay, this is how I want to do it. I think I don't think it would take him long either. I think him doing a lot of striking practice or whatever, I think it's diminishing returns from him at this point. I don't think he's ever going to be a better striker than he is now. But I think if he went for more wrestling, I think there's more low hanging fruit for him to just get and improve his game so much more and grapple, mixing the grappling a lot more than try to be like a pure kickboxer that grapples sometimes. Because I think he finds a lot of success with the grappling when he does get it.
That said, I certainly hope for his sake that he's been having a grappling focused camp, because that is what Gamrot's going to be imposing upon him.
Yeah. He's gonna need that wrestling defense for sure.
So Gamrot, yeah, it's one of those. The way Gamrot fights, it's not a question of if, but like, just when and how often he's going to spam takedowns. Like he might have one of the highest percentages of, or like highest volumes of shots taken like per round in the UFC. Like this guy fought Arman, and he's just like repeatedly spamming takedowns.
Yeah, that was a good match between those two.
Up there for one of my favorite, honest to God, all time, just from like pure high level grappling. Like two guys who want to get the takedown and get top position, so neither of them are resting for a single beat on bottom position. Just crazy high level stuff.
Sounds like a
Um,
porno.
Pause.
um, uh, yeah. One thing about Dan though, he does have a height and reach advantage, like a major over Gamma.
Yeah,
75 inch
so
reach to 70 and 6 foot to 5'8".
I think for a Hooker to win is not to like oversimplify the fight, but like he just needs to keep it on the feet. I think I don't think Gamrot's a very good striker.
I think Dan should win the striking, honestly.
Yeah, like some of the guys he's struggled with were honestly like pretty high level strikers, or at least like high IQ strike. You know, like I would argue like a Poirier is not necessarily the most high level in terms of like his techniques or like his athleticism, but he's like a pretty high IQ striker and like a good counter striker, you know, counter boxer in particular. You know, so that's someone who fucked Hooker up. And then so he's kind of lost to like he's lost in many different ways, but pretty much all striking. Like I haven't seen or none comes to mind of like somebody who like you know wrestle fucked him into oblivion.
Yeah, I don't think he ever got submitted. KO.
Well, is
Oh,
okay. Oh,
Islam.
sorry,
Islam
Islam.
submitted him. My
Sorry,
bad. My bad. I
sorry. I
forgot
forgot. I
about that.
forgot. Yeah, I forgot a very
Okay,
major
yeah,
one.
he fought Islam.
Well,
Yeah.
dude, is oh yeah, that was one of those Islam fucking speed ran him. Like just took him down
Yeah.
and subbed him like 2 minutes or whatever.
Was it a Kimura? Like it was something bad, right?
I think so. I think he just like took him down side control. Yeah, Kimura done. Good night.
Yeah, you don't want to get Kimura in 2 minutes. That's not good. But
Okay,
yeah,
so
man.
removing Islam in general, he's not the type of guy that is easy to get down or just simply control. Like you can get him down, but he's one of those. He has like a pretty high sense of urgency and is sneakily capable enough of a defensive grappler to like usually get back onto the feet.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Gamrot's one of the premier grapplers of the division. I think he's. I mean, Gamrot beat Armon. He beat Armon, and it was basically a wrestling match. So I think that alone is huge testament to what Gamrot's bringing to the table.
But there's always that factor. If Dan can keep it on the feet, he can. So I see paths to victory for both guys, honestly. And I'm pretty
That's
sure
what I
Dan
meant
would have
before,
his
man.
camp grappling focused.
That's what I was saying before. Like, not to oversimplify it, but this really feels like a binary of does Gamrot get his? If Gamrot gets a takedown each of the 3 rounds, he almost definitely wins. But if Hooker can keep it on the feet if he simply keeps it on the feet 2 out of 3 rounds, I don't see how he loses because I don't see how he should not be losing striking exchanges or not enough of them that Gamrot can steal rounds from him purely in striking exchanges.
Yeah. Fuck. But the finality to grappling, boy. That
Yeah, that said, I do
you
think
let this man put his
all that to
hands on
say,
you.
I think Gamrot does get him down probably every round and probably wins the decision by just getting him down, controlling him for, a minute or two each round. Like the only way Hooker wins those type of rounds is what I would say. It's like when things are close and no one has a decisive advantage on the damage, the round goes to the guy who scored the takedown. Simple as that. And I could see that fight being like this, where like Dan Hooker might land a few more strikes on the feet, but Gamrot got the takedown in each of the 3 rounds, so he wins each of the 3 rounds because he got a takedown in 2 minutes of control each round.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it going that way. Or Dan Hooker been practicing and he stuffs takedowns and round 2
Honest to
KO.
God, bro, I hope he does. I truly like. I've kind of not just because we're like we appreciate like the city kickboxing, like the way they build their fighters up and strategize for fights, but just as like a general UFC fan, it's always been like, bro, when is Dan Hooker like gonna get his shit together in the fucking octagon?
That being said, before I let Hybrid go, I have I'll give Gamrot fuck. I'll give him a 57% chance to win. How about that? Huh? 57%.
Why don't you add a decimal point while you're at it, bro? 57. Where'd you come up with that?
57.5%
All right,
chance to win.
0.5.
Why? Because Dan Hooker has 12 losses. and and sometimes his decision making is questionable. Yeah, that's why. And the finality of grappling. Because while you might be winning 4 rounds straight. If that man gets his hands on you and takes you down, you end up in the wrong position. You might be in serious problems. And that's why. Hybrid?
I'm actually with you on that. I think it's between 55-60%. I'd give the same, to be honest, and for the same reasons pretty much. I think honestly, man, at this stage, we know what these guys are about, and Gamrot's just more consistent with making the right decisions he needs to know to win. And Dan Hooker, unfortunately loses a third of the fights he's in. He consistently doesn't always show up with what he needs. So at this level, I have to favor
Like
Gamrot.
almost half of the fights he's in.
Yeah, I know.
It's 12 losses, 23 wins.
Well, that's almost exactly 1/3 of his fights lost.
Wait, am I tripping?
Well, if one number is double the other number, the summation of the three, the smaller number is 1/3, and the larger number is 2/3.
Yeah, he's actually one win away from perfectly
being 66.66%.
Yes, 24-12 would be exactly
Oh,
winning
I'm a
2 out of
fucking
3.
idiot.
So Hitman can't speak English or do math.
I was not okay, bro. Listen. I was not
Cat's out of the
thinking about
bag.
it. I was not thinking about it that way, bro. Because I'm like, he has 23 wins and 12 losses. So that's like half of 23.
I
24, but you get it. That's where my mind went. But when
knew
you're like,
exactly what you were
but you
thinking.
took you took the overall count, and then of course 12.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, of course.
I will
That's not
personally,
how I was looking at it. Well, yeah.
I will personally be filing a lawsuit on behalf of Hitman.
couldn't let Dan Hooker get too disrespected. He's not Artem Lobov.
Dude, didn't he have a straight up losing record?
I think Lobov might have had a losing record, and I think he legitimately lost half or more of his fights. But I don't quote me on that, but I think so.
Bro, 13-15.
Yeah, he lost half his fights, dude. That's wild.
Literally, he didn't
More
win
than
half
half.
his fights. He won like 46% of his fights or something.
Yeah, and he lost all his friends and all his money.
Yeah, and Connor now exclusively refers to him as like a rat fuck. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that needs to be the topic of the podcast, but I as ridiculous as McGregor is, he might have been right on that one. Because the whole fucking Khabib saga, people forget that started with Lobov.
Oh, fuck.
yeah,
Connor
what was
involved himself in some Russian beef on behalf of his buddy.
the original infraction?
Lobov was just chirping Khabib and his boys, and then Khabib and his boys like slapped him, And then McGregor was like, they just slapped Lobov. Like, I'm getting on a plane to New York City. And he legit got on a plane to New York City and threw a chair through
That's
a
when he
bus.
threw the chair. He threw the chair at their bus. Dude,
Yeah, which is crazy.
all time full blown WWE moment for the UFC.
Yeah. Except
Like
the
literally,
thing is that
it's in like it's in the poorly lit.
bro.
Listen, bro. Listen, let me tell you something about life, bro. When you have a friend like Connor that would do something like that, you don't go outside and get smacked, bro. What is wrong with you? These are certain things like when you used to being around street people that you know these things. If I know my friend, he's a very violent guy and he's gonna do very violent things if something happens to me. I try for violent things to not happen to me, so he doesn't have to do anything. That's being a good friend. Okay, you can't be around getting fucking smacked, bro. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I was gonna say the opposite, bro, where I'm like, to be honest, dude, that's some fucking crazy shit. A lot of people say they'll do shit like that. The fact that he actually went out and did that on your behalf, that's wild. That is not some that is someone I would be, bro, if you guys did that for me, I would be touched.
Pause.
But I'd be like
Pause.
I would be like, damn, bro. I'd be like, hey, man, you really flew all the way out here and shot that dude, like, because he fucking cut me off in traffic. I'd be like, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard. Like, I would not be trying to rip you off.
True love, bro.
On your, I would not be trying to rip you off and saying like, oh, dude, you owe me money for the whiskey company or whatever. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure he's gonna hook you up somehow. If like your boys, like you don't need to fight with him about that shit probably. But I don't know their story and all that shit. And I'm sure Connor's been doing coke for the last 5 years or whatever the hell. But still, it looks like Lobov really screwed up.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. What are your stats on Gamrot Hooker Kakashi?
Oh, I'm going 60 camera.
Oh, it's settled then. Hi, Cara
Moving on.
France, Steve Urseg. What do you guys think?
Let's see. I actually like rewatching some film of Cara France. I like his game a little bit more than I had from pure memory. He is another city guy because this is almost an exclusively city card, right?
His record is almost the same as Dan's.
Yeah, I think that's what's like in my mind. Why I had such a
He's lost
like.
half his fights, bro.
About half of his fucking fight.
That's hitman math right there.
Hey, bro. I'm not a
Now,
mathematician, okay?
I will say he's also lost to kind of the who's who to give him some benefit of the doubt of those 11 losses. Like,
That's the quintessential gatekeeper. A proper gatekeeper is a guy who's won a fair amount of fights, but they have a good chunk of losses, and all their losses are to the guys who passed the gate and got it up into the top 5 or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Like Hitman and I
That
rewatched
record.
his most recent fight, and we both felt he won that fight.
Yeah, that's
all
the thing.
Bozzy.
Well, that's the thing. Like guys with that record, you usually know if they're on a card like this at this level, it just means they've been a gatekeeper for a while. The guys you see with that record are guys like Neil Magny. Dan Hooker, to be honest, is kind of a gatekeeper. That's who those guys are. Look at Donald Cerrone's record.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Good fighter, but always lost when
Good
he
fighter,
knocked him.
but he's lost plenty of times. But you look at the record of who he's lost to, and it's like, well, these are all like champs, and close number one contenders and shit.
Yeah. But so you look at Kai Kara France. So he lost a split decision to like number 7 in the weight class, but personally, and I think Hitman was on the same page. We felt he probably won that fight. Like definitely did more damage, and that guy kind of Dricus'd him. Like he kind of stole the decision Dricus over Strickland style, where like he just made it ugly enough, and he was the one who got the takedown in 2 out of 3 rounds. So 2 out of 3 judges gave it to him. But so prior to that, he lost to Brandon Moreno, who was champ at the time. Brandon Royval, who just lost his title fight against Pantoja. And then before that was Brandon Moreno again. So he lost to champ, and guy who was number 1 contender. So it's exactly what you were saying. You have to go back to 2016 before he lost to someone who was not a big name in the UFC.
What are the Vegas odds on this fight? Do you know?
I think it's favoring Usyk, but let me double check.
Because I think this fight is one of these fights. It's hard to gauge, honestly. I think both guys can have their own successes in the striking.
Usyk's favored, but not favored that heavy. Minus 160.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's what it felt like to me. Because I don't think it's gonna go to the ground. I don't think it's gonna be like a wrestling match. I think it's just gonna whoever can hit the striking more.
I will say, Usyk bills at 5'8", but if anything, he feels like he feels tall. He doesn't. That's not like an inflated. It's not like a Michael Chandler 5'8". This is like a legit 5'8". Cara France bills at 5'4".
But he has a 69 reach, the best reach you could have.
69 420. Yeah. He doesn't feel like he fights that long though, even though he sneakily has a better reach than Usyk.
It was a gorilla, I think. I mean, these stats are fake news sometimes.
Yeah, they really are. Sometimes they're literally off by like their height is off by fucking 3 inches or something stupid. Yeah, so I think they're both gonna have their moments in the striking. They both fight with very good pace, which you kind of expect for any legitimate fighter at fucking flyweight. Like if that's kind of just table stakes. But I do think Usyk has some really clean boxing, and he fights long. And being 5'8", you are pretty big for the weight class.
Yeah.
So I think he can win enough of those exchanges with his just range and straight punching. He has pretty good timing too with his boxing. And we saw against he loses to Pantoja, but he gave him a hell of a fight after the first round when Pantoja slowed down.
Yeah, when he weathered down, it was a hell of a fight after that for sure. I think Kai's striking is a bit less. I think it's more normal.
A little more,
like,
yeah. He's
more
a little
typical UFC striking. See?
He's a little more reckless too.
Yeah.
Like he kind of, you know what? It's funny. He kind of reminds me a little less athletic, but kind of like his boy Cape. Cop. I can't even remember what the meme was and what's the fucking truth of how the fuck you say that guy's name.
That's how you do it, bro.
Yeah, you've literally.
You don't know the meme from reality. That the meme was successful.
Exactly. It's fully invaded my headspace that I don't know which is truth and which is reality. Anyway, Cara France was the guy who he was talking shit on with the most iconic line, arguably, of all time. But they both have they have very potent offenses, but they can both be hit defensively.
Bro, do you guys remember at a press conference? I don't know who it was, but Izzy pulled out his belt to whoop the guy. He said, "I'm gonna whoop him like his mother's."
Dude, who was that? Seriously,
Bro, Izzy, bro. Oh, was it Paulo? I think Paulo brought a white belt. Was it Paulo? And then Izzy grabbed it back and whooped him with it.
Yes. I was gonna say Paulo, but I couldn't remember the moment. It just
Was it
felt like
Paulo?
it just totally feels like it would Paulo
Bro.
and Izzy dynamic would be the one that would happen with.
Yeah, I think he's trying to he's trying to disrespect Izzy by like giving him a white belt or whatever. Izzy grabs it and whoops him with it. Dog, that's some funny shit, bro. Anyway, yeah, I think this fight it's hard to pick one winner over the other. It's just gonna be who can touch each other more. It's just gonna be one of those fights.
Pause.
No play on that one. They could do what they do. I'm not included. So
yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go Usyk 55. So I'm picking him, but not by a huge margin.
yeah, I think that's good. 50%, 50 to 52. I think this fight is a very it's hard. I don't know what analysis you're gonna do to be like, oh, this or this guy is gonna win. It's like it's too close for me to really call it.
Yeah. Bottom line is, edges Usyk obviously taller, but with that, I think he's a bit more sound of a striker.
I agree with that. Hybrid, what you got, bro?
Hybrid's like, I don't even fucking watch flyweights. Next.
I don't believe in this division.
It's literally the leprechaun division. It doesn't exist. It's a
No,
pure
but well,
Irishman.
to be honest, dude, I stopped watching flyweight after Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo moved on. To be honest, it's not even like I have anything against flyweights. I just haven't found the division compelling in a long time. But I mean, I'm kind of taking Usyk just because, dude, this is the same fight as the Dan Hooker Gamrot fight in some ways. I just think Usyk's proved himself to be a little bit more consistent. He hasn't had as much experience and probably fought quite as many high level guys, so his record hasn't been touched up enough. But still, Kara France has just shown that he's not consistent in winning. I mean, having this record at age 31, if you had this record at age 38, I'd be like, okay. But at 31, you have this record. It's hard to put faith in you. That's all.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but
And I don't need to. I personally, I don't need to look into it too much beyond that to be confident that I'd favor Usyk. Could I give you reasons why, like little advantages Kara France I think has? Sure, but if you want me to make a pick, I'm leaning Usyk.
what if Kyra France goes on his Oliveira run, the resurgence, flying knee, Masvidal?
He won't because he's a flyweight and they can never do anything cool.
Fucking leprechauns. All right, moving on to the main event now.
I love it. Oh yeah, let's go main event. Dricus Duplessis, Israel Adesanya. If y'all pronounced it right. Are you American dogs? Don't know how to pronounce people's names.
Listen, bro. At least we can do arithmetic, all right?
I don't even know who you are. They listed Izzy as 6'3" here.
Yeah, 6'3".
And they listed Dricus as 6'1". And I think that they inflated Dricus by an inch and maybe shrunk Izzy by an inch.
Maybe.
Yeah. So my barometer for knowing Izzy isn't just like, like when people are super, super skinny, they can appear taller than they actually are, and then you stand next to them, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, you're like 6 foot, but from like across the room, I thought you were like 6'3", because they're
It's like
just
when
so
people wear
lean.
vertical stripes.
Yeah, it's true. That's a tactic for short kings out there. Anyway, so I kind of always thought that about Izzy. Like, does he just like look taller than he actually is? But I mean, when he fought Pereira and they did the weigh-in, so they're standing eye to eye. He's like a half-inch shorter max than Pereira.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
they
I've
are
seen him.
almost the exact same height.
I judge his height by the weigh-ins and face-offs. Like he's a tall middleweight man. He genuinely is.
Yeah.
I think Dricus. I'm trying to think. I think
Dude,
with Dricus,
even Paulo is surprisingly tall. I think Paulo is taller than people expect.
I think he's a legit 6'2".
Yeah, and Izzy was still taller than Paulo.
Paulo's reach also was lacking.
Paulo's
Izzy was
lacking.
calling him. Yeah, Izzy was calling him dinosaur arms. T-Rex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
T-Rex. Yeah. Yeah, like Dricus and Sean are almost the same height. They appeared
I think
they
Sean's
appear to be the same
underratedly
height.
tall. I think
Yeah, they
Dricus is
appear to be the
legitimately
same
a
height,
little
but
short.
Dricus has spiky ass hair. So like they're the same height
Yeah.
because he has an inch of spiky hair.
I
So yeah,
wouldn't be
I think
I
Dricus
wouldn't be
is 6 foot.
surprised. I wouldn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I think Dricus is 6 foot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was like 5'11" and a half. To be honest, but I think he's probably 6 foot even. I think Izzy's a legit 6'3" and a half, 6'4". But the big thing with this fight, bro, is I to be honest, I think the fact that Dricus isn't super tall is partly why he's so strong for the weight class. Like probably I mean, dude, the two strongest middleweights right now up in the top 10 probably are Paulo and Dricus. And I think part of that for Dricus is just that he probably doesn't have to. He's wide, so he doesn't necessarily need to. He fits into the weight class comfortably while being big, but he's not super large framed and super long, and Izzy is, and I don't know if Dricus really has the style or the tools to really manage distance and range very well, fighting as the shorter guy against a guy who is so wizard-like good at managing it, like Adesanya is. So I think Dricus is. This is the fight on paper where we both know Dricus is at a major disadvantage striking, but I think we might see that reach advantage really, really give him a tremendous amount of trouble, and we're going to see the limits of what his chin and face and skin can take in terms of impacts.
Oh, bro. I was looking at the Drake. I was looking at who he fought, and I saw the Robert fight. And bro, I just had flashbacks of
Bro,
him
too
just
soon.
stripping Robert like a child.
Yeah, yeah, literally, man. Well, can I say also what we talked about prior before we were recording?
Yeah.
There is something to Dricus that at face value isn't as apparent because of how wooden and chunky and sloppy his movements are compared to what we associate visually with good striking. In the same way that there are some people who are much stronger than they visually appear to be. We have certain visual signals that we use as proxies for a lot of things. You'll look at someone's, their face. You'll hear their voice. You'll look at how their body appears at face value, and you'll make certain judgments about them that are often decent proxies, but still a fair margin for error in those things. And sometimes you'll look at a guy that doesn't look that strong, and then you see them lift or you train with them in the gym, and suddenly you're like, oh shit, this guy is more explosive than you thought. This guy's faster than you thought. This guy's better conditioning than you thought. This guy's stronger than you thought. There are times where there's other underlying qualities that defy what the initial face value assessment was. I think that factor applies to Dricus's striking a little bit, where there's definitely still palatable, like visual problems with it, where we've seen in effect, like he struggles with certain things or he misses a lot, he is hittable and all those things. But I think that the goofiness we've noted about it is not to be underestimated to the point where he's of no threat, because he keeps surprising people when it's like, oh, Dricus is going to lose this fight, and then he fucking wins. And I think that
He's done it time and time again. As we've
exactly.
seen.
So I think that if Izzy's smart, he should not underestimate him too much, or and not be too desperate to try and embarrass him in a show-offy way. If he does that, I think he'll
So
absolutely take this. But I do think Dricus is kind of hard to read, and fighting him is kind of like fighting someone who doesn't do the right things, and so you're actually worse at fighting someone who doesn't do the right things.
on that exact point of like he doesn't do the right things, and in a sense that makes it harder. So like where we've seen Izzy flash the most brilliance is actually the guys who are objectively doing the right thing, but Izzy's just in a more advanced striker than them. So take Whitaker, take even Costa. Like Costa, his strategy and like decision making are certainly something to be questioned, but he's trying to like make the right read and do the right thing. And therefore, Izzy knows what they're going to do. He can move them like a chess piece, place them where he needs to be to feint, to set up that kick. Now you're thinking about the kick, and then he kicks high, or whatever. Someone like Dricus, he not exactly the same, but kind of like how like Bilal trained himself. This is like in hindsight, perhaps the biggest props I'll give to Bilal in that versus Leon. He clearly trained himself to say like I have to ignore all the noise, as in like I have to like march forward through the feints, knowing I'm going to get clipped a little bit, but I just need to walk forward and get in his grill and make it ugly and make him uncomfortable and not fight at the range and at the pace that he wants to. So not that it'll look the exact same. I actually think Bilal has cleaner striking than DDP, which is funny because striking's pretty rudimentary, but at least it's clean. The stuff that Bilal does throw, Dricus does not. But structurally similar, where I think Dricus, in his goofiness, in his unorthodox nature to kind of everything, his guard, the strikes themselves, what he does in some sequences, you're like, dude, why did you just spam an overhand left? Like, you literally missed by 3 feet. That wasn't even close. But that chaos minimizes some of the magic that an Izzy has in his like best fights that I could think. Izzy against Pereira, dude. Both times he loses in the UFC. Loses the first time to Pereira, but he's beating him, I think, like 3 out of 4 rounds before getting TKO'd in the 5th by Pereira. And then he knocks them out the next time. So Izzy's like, in a sense, not in an absolute, but like at least to an extent, he's his most potent, I'll say. Maybe not always his best in terms of the outcome, possibly, but he's his most potent when he's against someone who he's in that chess match with. But this isn't a guy, dude. Dricus is going out there and he's throwing checkers at you and potentially his own poop like a fucking chimp.
Bro's playing bingo.
Hey, he's playing bingo and he's gonna throw the bingo board at your head.
Bro, yeah, he just throw the little bingo balls. He just fucking toss.
That's literally the problem, though.
That was a long-winded. That is the exclamation point on the long-winded point I was making. There is like, I think so strategically. If I'm Izzy, instead of like trying to like put him in the labyrinth of mirrors or whatever, I think he needs to come out and fucking crush him with leg kicks, like 5 in a row.
Listen,
Like Dricus comes in, bam, sit down, fucking crush him with low kicks or calf kicks. Make him pay the price where he needs to feel that pain and think like, oh shit, if I keep walking into that, I'm not going to be able to walk, and that's a problem. He needs to plant that hesitance in Dricus So then he could move him like the chess piece that he wants to. Because it's not going to be from like, flashing his hip, feinting his punches. Dricus he's just not even going to react to that. Or not in the way that benefits Izzy.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that a big difference between the way you feint experienced guys and the way you feint less experienced guys is less experienced guys need obvious and dramatic feints in order to derive the right reaction from them, and advanced guys need subtle ones. So if Izzy, which I'm sure he's competent enough to understand and do this, Izzy with some very you almost won't use feints. You'll actually use fakes. And fakes would be like actually throwing the strike. This is how I use the terminology anyway. Fakes are like when you throw the strike but without full intent. So you might do something like not
Oh,
feinting the right hand and high kick, but you would actually
yeah.
feint. You'd throw the right hand, but it's really you throw it in just a subtle way where you're torquing your body ready to high kick, pretending like what you're doing is throwing the right hand. And while you get Dricus to bring his hands forward and front to block or to try and parry, he successfully parries, and then you chop him over the ear with your shin. Things like that will be more successful, I think. And I think Izzy has the IQ and competence to understand that, and he will make those decisions. Dricus, what he has going for him is that it's simply that Izzy might get perplexed by some weird decisions that he makes, but I do think that this will be a high enough volume striking match because I don't think Izzy's going to be afraid of Dricus's punching power too much to make him hesitate. And I don't think Dricus is necessarily going to make Izzy hesitate or feel uncomfortable on the feet the way that Strickland did. So I think that Izzy will feel
Yeah,
comfortable throwing.
he doesn't have the tools that Strickland had,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have the tools for he doesn't have the tools to make Izzy scared or hesitant on the feet. Like
Yeah,
I
many of
so
his
think
opponents.
because of that, it's gonna be the type of situation where Izzy has a lot of room to do his thing and work, and when Izzy has a lot of room to work and do his thing, you see performances like the Paulo Costa fight, and I think that Izzy's going to kick like physically. I think he's going to low kick the hell out of Dricus. And I think Dricus's best path to victory is actually going to be pressing the grappling as a threat in order to build off of that. That's really his path to victory, and Izzy's path to victory is going to be starting with low kicks and really making them a problem for Dricus so he starts overreacting.
I think e- what was I about to say? I was about to say something really important. Oh yeah, when you were talking about the fainting. Yeah, if Izzy goes out there trying to like hip faint Dricus,
Yeah, he's gonna get
he's gonna
retard
lose,
rushed.
bro. Because Dricus doesn't know what the hell that is, bro. He doesn't. He's
Yeah.
gonna hip faint like what? Why is
He's
this
like,
guy
why are you
moving?
doing that? Why are you doing
Why
that
he's
weird thing?
like yeah, this guy's gay.
They'll probably ask him.
Yeah, like what are you
They'll
doing?
probably be like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And then
Yeah,
just like spinning back fist at him and miss by a mile. Like this has potential. This I will also say, this fight has potential to be really fucking weird. This
I
has
think
potential
I
to be
think
a
if this
fight where
fight
we're like,
goes
"What the hell happened?"
Yeah, I think if this fight goes past the second round, I think it will almost inevitably be weird in some capacity.
Here's what I think. I think Dricus should have fought Izzy earlier before he fought Strickland. Because before that, Dricus he didn't have much film on him. All his fights would end like round two. He would trip Robert and like a toddler.
Yeah.
It submit him. Um,
Yeah, he did the fucking headlock hip toss. Literally ragdolled him.
yeah, like a child. It was bad. And then yeah, but after fighting Strickland, he has now 5 full rounds of footage on him where you can analyze all his striking, all his grappling. And I think the guys at City Kickboxing are going to take full advantage of they have taken full advantage of that, and they're going to be ready for Dricus more than they would have.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, man. The 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 surprise factor that we mentioned earlier that Dricus kind of has, that he can be underestimated, is going to be dampened a fair amount, because I think Izzy is going to look at him and say, okay, well, he's not like the biggest joke in the world. He did just beat the guy that beat me. So, and I think one thing about Izzy is he does take fights serious. Like, he does take his career, he does take the fight serious. So, like, you know, he's not a guy that's going to show up unprepared and not doing his homework. So, on the IQ front, Dricus is possibly taking his secret weapon, which is underestimating his weirdness, and removing that off the table. And that's another reason why I think we should strongly favor Izzy.
So I love the point there that like 25 minutes of seeing all, like on full display.
Yeah, there's no
how
more secret.
How Dricus reacts to. Obviously, Strickland has a bit of a different style than Izzy, but like you get to see, you know, what does he do when he's under, you know, being caught in a sequence of strikes. You know, how does he react to kicks? When does he time, and how does he cue his his blitzes, or whatever the hell you want to call them? So I'm not going to say it's not like the most obvious thing that could happen, but this feels like all the factors are in place where this could be the type of fight where Izzy knocks him out in the first round, and then right after the fact, he explains like, "Oh, this is something we saw on film. We knew exactly what he does if I, you know, feed him a series of kicks to the body in a row. Like, I'll just copy and paste the scenario for simplicity, like John Jones in DC when he was like, "Oh, I knew if I kicked him in the body multiple times, he slowly starts to react more and more and more and pull his hands down and lean to that side. So I knew I do a few of those, build that reaction, fake low, go high, good night." So again, that's just a easy one to grab at, but I could see something like that being the case here, where like they made some like super sick read, built the perfect game plan to exploit it, and then you see it on full display Saturday night. Or they do that and it lands, but it's Dricus and he has the X factor of one of the highest profiling horses in the entire fucking roster.
Yeah, or you know,
and just eats a head kick and then double legs Izzy into another dimension.
Yeah, or you know, he body locks Izzy, steps behind him, put his foot down, and then just drags him over his leg like a kindergartner, and then fucking Kimura's him.
He fucking body locks and literally
just takes his arm and yanks his arm.
Izzy ceases to exist. He literally just folds into himself like a cartoon black hole and just gets deleted from existence.
That's the thing. Like, I wouldn't fully underestimate him, just because he seems to just be able to pull off this shit where we're like, what the hell?
Do one thing, like you were saying before about like how people have underestimated him, and then they're surprised that they're like, "Oh, dude, this guy's striking looks so ugly. Like, how did he land these shots on me or whatever?" I think even though it's objectively better and looks like it passes the eye test, and he's demonstrated high level competence, but his grappling, I think he's one of those guys that he gets his hands on you and you're like, "Oh my fucking god, is he strong?"
Oh yeah, that's for sure one of the factors. I think because, dude, this is the thing. We use visual proxies for so much, and we as the observer for these fights, we're just watching fights on our phones and laptops, bro, and TVs. Like, it's so different when you're in there. Like, and we know that as athletes that have trained in these sports a lot, like, people can say what they want from the sidelines, and ultimately I'm on the sidelines. I understand that there's a lot of things I can't actually, a lot of a fight is feel, and I actually can't feel anything in the fight. I can only see. And because of that, and I know from training athletes and from working in performance stuff, like, so much, in fact the majority of what's going on is actually not things that I can see. It's stuff that is kind of invisible, and you can run tests in order to, like, bring it out of people, but you don't actually know for sure until you see them do it. And we use these visual proxies, like, what does someone's body look like, what do their muscles look like, what is their what does it look like when they do this or that. And you might say something like, dude, a lot of guys have, like, smooth moves, a lot of guys move well and look great and shit. And then you see them fight and you're like, they're just not that good. Like, look at, if you watch Anthony Pettis doing all his stuff, you'd be like, this is the greatest fighter of all time sometimes. And then, but you see him in the fight, and you're like, oh, it just doesn't always add up to that at the end result. And I think with Dricus is there's obviously, you do not have his record, and you don't have him be the middleweight champ, which is a no joke division. You don't really have him be the middleweight champ right now if there wasn't something. And like Hitman kind of alluded to prior, one of his advantages is, I think, that because he appears this way, he's a little bit underestimated until you fight him. So I think people are thrown off by, like, what they feel when he's in good shape. So he keeps a decent pace up for 5 rounds, especially for a thick guy. I think that's a quality he has that's honestly pretty good. He has a good chin on him, and I mean, he's down to fucking throw down, dude. He's not really a quitter. It seems like so. That's kind of tough to deal with, even if you're like, I'm an expert puncher and kicker. Like, you got to be on point the whole time.
Yeah, because he's
Um,
gonna muddy the waters, boy.
yeah, because he's gonna make everything
Yeah,
feel stupid and feel dumb, and you don't have a
yeah.
dance partner in there. You have a guy who's trying to hurt you. Like, when you're fighting Sean Strickland, he's kind of
There's
a
a
dance
method to
partner.
the madness. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of a dance partner. He's like, yeah, we're gonna jab it here, and we're gonna, slip here. I'm gonna throw my feints. You're throwing your feints. You kind of get into a rhythm of, like, a guy who's a striker. The fact that Dricus isn't like that is actually why you're like, dude, I can't find my rhythm with him. And it is possible Izzy will feel a little weird with that, because as good as he is, the guys he slays and outperforms are other traditional martial artists.
Oh
Right
well,
now he's
Romero.
fighting, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right now he's fighting a guy who just has this weird little X factor about him that we've been picking up on. I think is really apparent now, and just, even if I'm favoring Izzy, I'm not stupid enough where I'm going to underestimate Dricus's capacity.
Yeah. I'll give it Izzy 60% because of his striking
I was going to
ability.
say exactly that. Yeah.
But 40% chance they yank Izzy to the ground like a toddler and submit him.
I
Or
don't
do
know if
some
he'll
real
get.
damage.
To be honest, I
Or
don't
do
know
some
if he'll
real
even
damage
get.
to him.
I don't know if he'll even get, like, the submission. But I think I could see Izzy. I could see a potential outcome where Dricus scores some takedowns that throw Izzy off,
And
tires him
hurt
out
him.
a little
Yeah.
bit, makes him
Yeah.
feel stressed out, makes him feel like, sometimes you just lose a round or two because, like you said, the finality of grappling, and that could fuck up Izzy's game plan or his comfort in the cage. And you could see a haphazard reboot of the Strickland fight if Izzy feels like he can't find his groove.
Yeah. Like I could see Izzy trying to throw 1-2s and step out, and every time he throws a 1-2, dude throws an overhand, makes it look ugly. Like he'll eat the 1-2, but then throw something also. So like you're doing more damage, but he's also touching you, and the judges are confused because the judges suck. And then you end up fucking losing the fight.
Exactly, dude. Have you guys ever read about American versus British boxing in the 20th century and the 1800s?
No.
So, the British were like known for like traditional, sophisticated boxing, and they were the outfighters. You know, they stood up tall with those long guards, hands out in front of them, and they would jab and they would move their feet around and they would pick their shots, and they were quote boxers. They were like sophisticated fighters with technique behind it. And the Americans, where America has much more of a grappling based heritage, whereas the UK did not. So Americans who were often wrestlers would box against them, and they had, they had legit championships back then, even in the 1800s. Like they would have British boxers sail over here to like fight an American, and they would organize the events and all that. American fighters are known as infighters, meaning like instead of being on the outside, they
Dirty
would want
boxing
to
and clinching.
they would dirty boxing up close. They would clinch you and punch you, and a lot of American boxers roughhouse the hell out of like really skilled, well-known, popular, talented, and like supposedly unbeatable British boxers. And it was because even though the infighting is not necessarily a superior style, British boxers were so used to, and like what they were skilled at is fighting other British boxers that are outfighters. And so the game that they were experts at is obliging another guy who's going to fight behind a lancing jab, feint, pick their shots, and throw a right hand when the opening's there. That's what they were good at. The second someone was like, I'm just not even fighting that game at all, we're going to clinch up and brawl like it's Buffalo Wild Wings at 1 a.m. and I've drank 40 beers. It's a different it's a different thing, and this might not actually be your A game, even if you are fundamentally an A level striker. The reality is, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate for the sake of analysis. The reality is, you can be like the best striker, but you have a specific game that you play that makes you good, and there are always holes and disadvantages to what you can do, even in the striking realm. And we saw that even with Strickland. So Izzy's not necessarily unbeatable. And who knows, bro? Sometimes, you'll just see something, or maybe Izzy beats the hell out of him, and then you just see this random, Dricus does some
Yeah,
wacko shit,
'cause you
spinning
can't
elbow, and
kill
just
him.
breaks his nose, and you're like, what the hell just happened? And
Yeah,
Dricus
you
is
can't
like, yeah,
kill
I
him.
told you. And you're like, I don't even know what to say about this.
Yeah, exactly. You
Dricus,
can't kill him.
Dricus is the captain of the football team, dude. That's all this is.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he
dude,
is that guy.
He's the
And
middle
he was that
linebacker,
guy.
and his name is Spike.
Yeah, like, dude,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Dricus is on the football team,
He's that guy you
and
hated.
yeah, and he's just like whatever. And Izzy is like kind of like the kid who sucked at football and is like kind of a nerd, but like put all his coins into like training the skills, right? And you don't really know who's gonna win this fight for sure. I'm betting on Izzy, but like in the archetype standpoint, this is kind of a jock versus anime nerd fight.
Yeah, bro, it's funny. I say Dricus, bro. He's exactly that archetype. He's captain of the football team. Boom, he got the baddest girl at the school, and you just hate him, man. Fuck this guy. This guy's an idiot. Yeah, he is an idiot, but
But he's captain of the football team, and he's fucking the captain of the cheerleading squad.
Yeah, and
bro,
you're
but he's that
you're like,
guy, and you're just
yeah,
hoping.
and you
Hope.
exactly, dude, and you're like, ah, dude, it's because some people will say stuff like this, that, dude, he's not even tough, he's not good, his muscles
Bro,
aren't even functional,
he's so dumb. He's not functional.
he's dumb as fuck, bro. I would whoop his ass with technique, and then like something happens and you guys fight after school, and he just fucking breaks you like a fucking like a
Yeah.
teapot.
And in front of all the women, and you can never
Yeah.
have pose ever again now.
Yeah, and then he's just fucking laying pipe later that day, and you're just at home ruminating for 14 years about it. Gives you a noogie at your 10-year reunion.
Yeah, bro. Every random morning you wake up to go to work, and in the shower you're like, "Fuck,
Yeah.
I can't believe that retard whooped my ass.
bro!"
God damn
In front of all
Can't
the
believe that
women, bro.
dumbass who kisses his coach on the lips whooped my ass.
He kisses coach on the lip.
it. Oh my god, dude.
Did you guys
Yeah.
watch that clip where he's talking about Alexa Grasso?
Dricus?
Alexa Grasso is a little baddie though.
Oh well, did you guys see that clip where he's being interviewed by those two guys and they're like, "How many Alexa Grassos would it take to beat you up?" He's like, "Alexa Grasso?" He's like, "I don't know. How many can you make?" And they're like, I don't know, like 400. He's like, oh, 400 Grassos, and then they're like, oh, dude, 400 Alexa Grassos would just fuck you up. They would just pile on you, like you wouldn't stand a chance. And he's just standing there, and he like sticks his tongue out. He'd be like, I'd just be like, ah. And like, and they all start laughing, bro. And like, I was just dying laughing because I'm like, oh, this dude's putting money in the bank to beat the allegations right now.
Wait,
Yeah,
no, I just watched it while you were talking there, but his reaction is very funny.
Yeah, no, it was funny, but it's just funny because it's just like,
Dude, that's it. I
him
see
and
where you're
Izzy-
getting.
Him and Izzy is like a funny thing because everyone's watching this fight. And
They
you're
are
like, oh, this is a funny fight.
antithetical.
They're
They're
both
like
just like possibly gay.
but they're somehow antithetical, like on almost every level. Like even in the fact that they're both like have allegations.
that's crazy.
They both have like, yo, bro, like Sean Strickland's out here accusing Izzy of like jerking his dog off. Drake is out here making out with his coach after he wins the belt.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like,
how are you guys? You guys are so antithetical to one another that
Izzy's wearing a
both.
choker and a dress at the
Bruh.
fucking weigh-ins and shit.
Bro,
Yeah,
is this
you
the
guys have-
gayest UFC fight?
Yeah.
Well, I think a hybrid said this weeks ago. This is the fight by far most likely in the history of the UFC where it's totally possible these guys just make out at the end.
Yeah, this is the most likely to kiss each other at the end
We're
of the
both
fight.
African brothers. African brothers making out,
Yeah.
bro.
Dude.
Africans unite. I forgot.
Why?
I forgot.
Why are you gay?
I forgot. I forgot about that narrative completely. And last year, that was like the whole thing. Remember?
Bro, he got it in his face, bro.
I know. I forgot about that. That was the whole thing.
Drake
Dude,
should have
they-
kissed him.
They have. Yeah, honestly, dude. Oh, by the way, that right there was because we saw them face off there. That was a good example of when you could see the height difference. And I know Izzy was wearing shoes,
Oh,
so
yeah.
Izzy looks way taller than him, but Izzy's still at least a good 3 inches taller.
Yes.
he was shorter.
But Dricus is packing the fucking schmeat on that bod.
This is another point I think you started with, hybrid. Dricus really is middleweight GSP phenotype.
He looks just like him. He
The
looks
exact
he looks
same-
like a bigger GSP.
Yeah, the exact same. Like they're super. Like they're when you look at either of them, like from the like their lats, like looking at them from the back, their lats are so wide, and their shoulders are so broad on like
Even their
narrow
faces
hips.
look the same, bro. They look like brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Drake, if Dricus shaved
dude.
his head, I think he
Yeah,
could.
they're like the
and
brothers
you
in-
just said that was GSP. People would be like, okay.
Yeah, they were like
They
if
look
they
the
were the
same.
brothers in high school. It's like GSP was the older brother who was like the softer spoken, nicer guy. He played basketball or something. He was the shooting guard. You know, he did something with like finesse to it.
He was nice to the nerds.
Yeah, he was nice to everybody. Everybody liked him. And then Dricus is yeah, in the American metaphor here, his name is Spike.
Could GSP
He-
also might be gay?
Oh man, yeah, we we could get to that in a second, but yes, but yeah, and then it's his younger brother Dricus. He's the middle linebacker, and he's purely good because he's just so much retard stronger than everyone else at age 17. He just fucking manhandles everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like they're cut. They have the same genes, and yet they're so different.
Well, I was gonna say, dude, one thing with even the way they move. So like I know GSP is touted as an extremely skilled fighter, and like again, he was my original inspiration in so many ways. Like my whole training philosophy now is really originally inspired by him. But he did have these movement qualities that were really not that exceptional. He used to do this thing. I've tweeted about this where he didn't turn over and sit on punches well. He didn't really have great rotation ability, which was weird. There was a clunkiness to his right hand where he didn't turn over on the back leg or turn his rear hip over. His footwork,
Especially in his era, he was like the only fighter. Do you think like all the other guys who were good in that era, it was all like rear hand, like Koshek,
yeah.
for
Oh, I know
example?
that they all
Like,
knew how to whip the backhand, and funnily
yeah,
enough,
they
the
knew how to
champ was
sit
the
on.
worst at it.
Yeah, he was all the lancing jab. Was his
Do you remember?
best
Do you
part.
remember? Do you remember George's right hand against a few guys? He would do this thing where he would actually step back into a flat stance and throw an overhand. He cracked Carlos Condit with it after Carlos Condit third round of their fight. I think Carlos Condit throws just a totally naked flying knee from way too far away, and George spots it and just bang nails an overhand on him, which was rare because you didn't really see a ton of overhands from George. He threw a fair number of them against Jake Shields as well, but
Mhm.
they were very looping. He's almost throwing them like he's trying to throw them like Chuck Liddell, but he didn't rotate and turn over the way Chuck Liddell did. So even though he's throwing an overhand, there's like not that much sauce on them, and so the point is, he actually, to be honest, did not rotate well. Um, and even with his footwork, there was a choppiness to where he like landed and placed his weight on the ground that is reminiscent to some of these stuttery steps and like almost missteps that Dricus makes. I've just noticed it where I'm like, they remind me of each other so much. Although I think George was a much more refined, in a technical sense, he was much more refined than Dricus is from a tactical and strategic sense.
Yeah,
But
back to the metaphor. It's because GSP was a student first and
yeah,
foremost, a true student of the game to this day. Like even in
yes,
retired for
it's
years,
true.
he's a student of the game. Where Dricus is again antithetical to that, where he's just the dumb jock who's just like, dude, I'm just bigger and stronger than everyone, and it hasn't failed me.
They have dude, Anderson Silva with that goatee looks fucking awesome.
Bro,
But dude,
listen,
how
listen,
stellar is that look on him?
bro, listen. We need to get Anderson Silva over to the Mr. Gay guy. So you'd be like, why are you gay?
Dude,
Yeah.
Anderson, yeah, I know. To be honest though, even
You said
Anderson,
you
like
are gay.
even Anderson kind of had a little bit of a gay vibe. But
No, I'm not gay.
yeah, but and I love all these guys. But and I got allegations too, actually. But
Pause.
Pause.
just because you guys have been memeing that for so long. But
Hey.
what was I gonna say? But dude, just so many things about the Dricus GSP similarity, including their athletic profiling. Like they're both deceptively strong. They prefer these choppy, like shoot on you and drive you into the cage takedowns.
Dude, I've
Top
heard that
game.
secondhand because at least back in the day, it was like kind of TriStar, like 15 years ago, and this was common for a lot of top MMA gyms. You could kind of just drop in and at least do like grappling rounds with like a GSP. That's not really
Yeah.
the case anymore. MMA is too big, and those guys are like kind of gated. It's like, oh, here's like our UFC fighters train over here. Everybody else trains in this other, room of the gym.
It's too
But
advanced enough.
yeah, and there's too many idiots, trying to have their hero moment saying that, they knocked out GSP when they dropped into TriStar or whatever. But anyway, there's like enough people that I've heard from several folks that like secondhand or like they got up there themselves where like they grapple with GSP and that was their takeaway. Exactly what, to your point, what I was saying earlier about Dricus is like he gets his hands on you and you were just like, what the fuck? He's so strong.
Yeah.
And the things that you thought you could get away with in grappling, they just don't work because he's like so isometrically dominant in his grappling.
You remember Nate Diaz complaining after their not Nate Nick Diaz complaining after their fight? The
Oh yeah,
thing he kept saying is he's like, fuck this, I'm the real martial artist. George is on steroids. He's like, oh, everyone wants to get strong like George. Like, oh, George is so fucking strong. It's like he only won because of fucking steroids. Like, I'm doing real jujitsu and shit. And I'm like, you could tell during the fight and after the fight that Nick's main thing is he was like, fuck, dude,
yeah, he was
this dude was
stifled.
strong as fuck. And like, you can tell that's what it is. And I'll tell you, because I've also in my particular area and the circles I run in, that was my thing. Everyone was like, he was just really, really strong. I've made jokes about it to you guys before where like I don't even get credit for like clever things I do or efficient things I do or like technical things I do. Everyone always just says like, oh, you're just really, really strong for your size. And partly that's true. But it's something that can catch people off guard, especially if you don't necessarily like have a certain type of physique. And some people do have that. And I've seen guys that were even more naturally strong than me, and you don't expect it at all. You just lock up with them wrestling, and I remember being like, "What, dude? I thought I was gonna like manhandle you, and I think you're actually stronger than I am, and I'm feeling weird right now." You know what I mean? Like there are guys like that, and I think Dricus and George are two of those people.
Kakashi, can you give your final percentage on Dricus? And then after that, Hybrid, can you please tell the Anderson Silva shirt story?
Izzy 61.5%.
You're not making a double digit decimal?
61.52%.
There we go. A lot more precise. Hybrid, can you tell us about Anderson Silva's shirt?
Dude, so I know you guys love this one, but the audience will probably love it too. My favorite, there's a bunch of stories about Anderson, bro. And like I love Anderson so much, dude, and this just made me like love his lore so much more. Like there's a bunch of stories about Anderson that are ridiculous, that I think are underappreciated. But my favorite one is when Chael Sonnen and him were doing their their promos for the fight and they're doing the press conferences. It's like 2011, bro. I don't remember if this is the first or second fight. I think it was for the second fight. It's like 2011, 2012. And Anderson's wearing like this pink shirt to like some press conference or event or whatever. And Chael Sonnen, who's like in his prime at the time, like for just shit talking and like, you know what I mean? He's putting all those classic lines out that we all remember him for. And no one else is kind of yapping like Chael Sonnen at the time. You know what I mean? He's just like tremendous promoter. And he says something, he instantly is like, of course he's gonna make fun of Anderson's shirt. Like he's wearing a pink shirt. Chael says something, he's like making jokes. He's like, oh, people are like, oh, Anderson, Chael, do you ever train jujitsu or anything like that? He's like, I'm a Republican. Like I never, I never lay down with a man between my legs and all this stuff. And everyone's laughing. And then he makes some joke where he's like, Anderson, however, sitting there with his pink shirt, like he loves jujitsu, blah, 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 something like that. And he makes this gay joke about Anderson and people are laughing and whatnot. Dude, Anderson straight up later tears out of his face, like just crying. And everyone's like, what the hell? And he just says into the mic, barely speaks English. He's trying to learn at the time. And he's like, I don't know. I like pink.
Like, I don't know why Chael make fun of it. And dude, I'm dying laughing. He's just like sobbing, a grown ass man, like because Chael made fun of his pink shirt. Um, and then Chael just knocked him. I mean, and then Anderson just knocked him the fuck out.
Right, the voice.
Yeah, I do. I love it. So, Chael, I don't know. I just like pink.
Dude, I think we talked about this before, but this is other like lore of apparently he was like very insecure about specifically his body, but also his voice.
Yeah, well,
So, like when he got popped for steroids, there was like leaks or whatever from like his camp or like inner circle that it was like he straight up was taking steroids because he was forever insecure that he had like he was kind of like some of his fights at his like most peak form he had like abs and stuff, but he kind of spent low key a lot of his career like kind of like skinny fat.
Yeah, well, dude, another thing too is you don't realize because we're American, and so you it's harder to pick up on like subtleties about someone's vibe when they're from another culture. But and again, these are all like secondhand stories that I've heard from people. But I guess apparently even Anderson, like where he's from, like he was just, people always accused him of being potentially gay. So it was something that he was a little bit sensitive to. So when Chael's like making gay jokes about him, you know, Anderson's like actually like this is like making me sad right now. Like why does everyone think I'm gay? And it's like, well, you wore the pink shirt. It's 2012 and it's Chael Son and he's gonna call you gay. I say
Yeah,
this as
it's
a guy
funny
who
because
wore a
he
pink shirt the other day.
I wear
it's
pink.
funny.
I wear pink all the time.
Oh, it's actually a full blown counter signal now. If you can't wear pink, then you're the one who's most sus.
Yeah.
Hiding something, huh?
What? Yeah. What? Why are you trying so hard to not be cool with a feminine color, bro? What are you?
Why?
What's going on?
Why this shirt gay? I don't know. I just like pink.
It's, it's so funny. I mean, Anderson literally walked into that one, but that was quite literally like his childhood trauma playing out. Where like he's clearly been trolled and it like hurt him very deeply when he was probably like, you know, hey, if he's 37 at that time and still sounded prepubescent, can you imagine what he sounded like in like high school age?
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny, man, is there are people that just fall into these archetypes. Like, I think, funnily enough, like Israel Adesanya is touted as almost like this generation's Anderson Silva in a way, but they do have these other weird similarities. Um, that kind of follow suit for whatever reason. And it's almost like Dricus fighting Izzy is kind of like it's kind of like finally getting to see Izzy fight. I mean, kind of like getting our Anderson versus GSP fight in a way. Even though I shouldn't really compare them that way. But people have these weird archetypes where people have a collection of things you wouldn't expect to be similar traits that kind of are. Because Izzy's kind of like that nerdy guy that was a little bit um, eccentric that really fell in love with like the creativity of martial arts and became a high level striker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
there's something to that. I think people like that are a little. Martial arts is an interesting thing to get really into, especially at the age that these people did it, because it was not a sport that necessarily had, especially in MMA and kickboxing, not a sport that necessarily had like the glory behind it like football. You didn't
Yeah,
get
you
into it
had
unless you were really
yeah.
passionate and inspired. People play
Yeah,
football because they're like, yeah, I play football.
because like it's not a thing at your school, and it's not well wrestling. Let's put wrestling aside, and it's the thing you have to go out of your way to do.
Yeah, you only get into it unless it's something you're like, something about it really sparks an interest for me. Nowadays, people are gonna grow up and they're gonna be like, I want to be an MMA fighter, blah blah blah. But bro, guys from that generation, there wasn't even like a UFC when they were a kid.
That is
They
true.
they were just like, I don't know, dude. I just really think this stuff's cool, and I think that's really what's cool about that generation and the type of people that came out of it.
Like a lot of my more older Muay Thai instructors, they would be like, "Bro, back in the day, we were just piecing this stuff together. We would have like there's an old cassette of some guy in Thailand fighting, and you just take a little bit from him or whatever from what you saw on the fucking tape.
Yeah, for
Yeah, that
sure.
was it, bro. Jeez. So yeah, you
Is
had
that
to be really into it,
Yeah, I was
like
gonna
kind of like.
say.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the material we have now. It sounds cliche, but the material we have now is so far beyond what was available in like the '90s, bro. People weren't even calling it MMA back then. It was like Vale Tudo from Brazil.
Yeah. Gee.
It's also you just straight up didn't have access to like their okay, so I grew up in a suburb, say an hour outside of a major city, and I think they got the first MMA, so not jujitsu gym, not a Muay Thai gym, or like a all three in one sort of thing, like a straight up like, oh, this is an MMA gym in like 2006, I want to say. And it's actually the first place I trained at, and it was just it was fucking retardsville in there, dude. It was just like I'm like 16, just getting into UFC. It's like, oh, this is so cool. I can train UFC. And I go in there, and they just had like day one, they had me sparring like 30-year-old men who are amateur fighters or whatever. It was just like lawless, no form, minimal technique. It was just like, yeah, here's some fucking here's a punch, here's a kick, and yeah, you know what? Go spar the amateur fighters. So in other words, it just wasn't on offer. And what was on offer and was brand new, coming up, yeah, fucking 15 to 20 years ago at this point, like what was on offer was just these shitty brawler gyms that just people tried to pop up and profit off of like the fledgling hype at the time of UFC. But there wasn't like a specialist Muay Thai gym in a random suburban town. You had to be in like a major city itself to even have a legitimate jujitsu presence or Muay Thai gyms around.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Uh, is this a pot?
I think that's a pod.
True. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Um,
Post fight coming next week. I hope you enjoy 305 this weekend, everybody.
is post flight coming next week?
I mean,
When
we'll
is
do a
the post
post
flight
fight.
coming? Oh yeah, okay, we could do a post fight. Yeah, we'll do a post fight. One of these because I'm like, I'll be traveling.
Hey man,
But
it's like I
I
got
should be
people to
back in
kill.
time. Yeah, I'll be back in time in the middle of next week. I'll be back. So we could do it like maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
It'll happen when it happens, but it'll
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We're out.